This is my very first video, and I figured for my very first video that I would do an unboxing for you guys. Now, yesterday I got another House of Rituals box. Now, this is not the first time I've received this. I actually renewed my subscription a couple of weeks ago and received May's box. I've reviewed this box completely on my blog, so if you would like to see what I thought of this particular box, you can visit flyingthehedge.com and look at my House of Rituals reviews. Now, this is a box that I thoroughly enjoyed, and I thought that it would be good, since I am keeping up with that subscription now, that this would be a good one to unbox for you guys in my very first video. So again, I got House of Rituals. Now, you'll notice that it says House of Rituals across the front. One of the things that I've found is that they don't always say House of Rituals on them. Now, Tamed Apothecary, or Tamed Wild, that does these particular subscription boxes, also does the Tamed Wild Apothecary box and a crystal box. So they have several different subscription boxes, and sometimes they use those boxes. Now, that doesn't mean that you receive that subscription. That's just the box that they happen to use. Now, I love these boxes because they're absolutely stunning, and I like to use these afterwards as a way to store some of my pagan supplies and all my witchcraft items. And when I store everything up, that's a great way to be green and to reuse these boxes. If you don't want to reuse them, then recycling them is a good option too. So I do know that, because I peeked into this already, that this month's box is on the Goddess, which I think is fantastic. So I'm going to go ahead and open it up here, and you guys will see that the very first thing we're getting here is an information sheet. Now, before I got information cards. This is the first time I've actually gotten full sheets of paper, so this is something new, and this is honestly, I think, an upgrade. So let's look at what we've got here. Beautiful artwork on this. It says Honoring the Goddess, and this is a description of the ritual for all of the items that are in the box. This is fantastic that it's on a sheet of paper, not a card, because if you're keeping your grimoire in a binder, you can easily hole punch this and stick it right in. If you're using a book like me, you can glue this in rather easily. This is a lot better because it's not printed on the back, it's only on the front, so I can glue something like this in to my grimoire if I wanted to. But this has the complete ritual on here, along with some fantastic artwork. Let's read a little bit what it says about the actual box. It says, May's House of Ritual box reminds us to honor the goddess in our life. If you don't already have or already communicate with the favored goddess, use the Goddess booklet to find who speaks to you. While each goddess is unique, they all represent the divine feminine. We honor the divine feminine by celebrating empathy, intuition, spirituality, and the sensuality that is present in every human, regardless of gender. We encourage you to share a part of your heart with your goddess and accept the gifts she bestows upon you. So there's our theme. And come attached with this, and this artwork is also beautiful. This is a list. I know it's hard to see, but this is a list of everything that's actually included in the box. It says we have a goddess booklet that highlights 50 favorite goddesses, a locket to be filled with a photo of your goddess or any other element that represents the goddess, a ritual jar to be filled with sand and herbs to catch the ashes from the parchment. When the ritual is complete, it can be left on the altar or buried. Vials of herbs. It looks like we have boneset and chamomile, and then ooh, there's a crystal in here, hematite, so I look forward to that. I have been wanting to get a piece of hematite for a while, so it'd be nice to add that to my collection. So let's see what is next. Looks like we have a piece of parchment. Now, it mentioned this parchment and burning it and putting it in the jar and catching the ashes in it, so I'm assuming that that is what this is for. This is a nice actual piece of homemade paper. It looks like it's got a lot of pulp. Then we have our goddess booklet. The artwork on this is also beautiful, that same watercolor look. Now, you'll notice that this says Tamed Wild on it. One of the things about the Tamed Wild boxes is that all of their stuff comes from them. Unlike some other subscription boxes that outsource their material, like the Gaia Collective's Moon box or the Box of Shadows, this one, they include all the stuff that came from them. It's straight from the source. So they curate these boxes and make everything that goes in them, which I think is fantastic. So you are supporting a small business. You're supporting Tamed Wild, unlike some other boxes where you can support multiple businesses, which I think is great too. But I like that they make all of their stuff in-house, so I know exactly where it's coming from, and I don't have to ask or figure that out. So let's look inside. We have some goddess pages here. It looks like it's an alphabetical order. It has Baba Yaga, which is a Russian goddess. I think Baba Yaga is fascinating. And then we also have some very pretty pictures here. There's Danu, and I flipped through this earlier when I peeked into the box, and there was a picture of Gaia in here. We have Frigga and stuff. Here's a whole page dedicated to Gaia, and you can see that this is just beautiful, beautiful pages. This is great if you already work with a goddess, or if you haven't started working with one yet and you want to figure out who you can incorporate into your rituals. Some more beautiful artwork there. This has goddesses from all traditions, so you're not just looking at, Celtic traditions or the Norse gods and goddesses and stuff like that. This is coming from everywhere. This is a great little handbook to have. Even if you're already working with somebody and you're looking at incorporating a different goddess into your ritual work, this can tell you which one to call upon. Like if you want to call on Kali for an abundance ritual or for protection, she would be a great one to call for that. Now, if you know me, you know that I am atheistic or an atheo-pagan, so I don't actually believe in any of the goddesses, but I do think that they're great to incorporate into rituals to help you focus your mind and give that little extra oomph. I know for a lot of people, having a god or goddess figure helps give meaning to their practice. So if you're looking for one, this is a great little resource. And I think honestly it'd be great to just like paste this in or stick this into your Book of Shadows or Grimoire as well. Now underneath all of that, we have some bubble wrap. Now this is slightly disappointing because in the past the boxes have come packed with eco-friendly materials. This time we're getting some bubble wrap. Now I understand why they did this, because it does contain a glass jar, and I know it contains vials of herbs, so it does have breakable things in here and they're trying to protect it. But I am disappointed with the use of bubble wrap. So let's see what's underneath that. I'll remove that right there. And we have some tissue paper. So let's open this up and see what we got. And there are our items in our box. So let's start pulling these out. The first thing I see here is a sage cleansing stick. Now this particular one is white desert sage. That's like what everybody uses. And it's also wrapped, you guys can see here, in some rose petals, which I think is great. That's a very, very feminine thing to add to a smudge stick or a sage stick, cleansing stick, whatever you want to call it. I'm sure that this is going to be used to cleanse all of our ritual items before the ritual and cleanse ourselves. Now, if you're like me, sage gets me in the mood to do magic. So this kind of puts me in that mindset. So I think it's great that they included this, and it looks handmade and it smells like it's fresh, which is something that's uncommon in some things. Next we have some ritual sand, and this ritual sand, I don't know how much you can see of it, is kind of a gray tone, and there's some herbs in here. Now I'm not 100% what herbs are in here, and I don't think it mentioned it on any of the stuff that I glanced through before I started this video, but from the smell of it, smells like there might be some sage. There's definitely, from the look, some rose petals in here and some other things that probably represent the feminine aspect of our deities. And that's supposed to go in the jar, which is right here. This looks like our goddess jar. Now I think that it being blue is great because blue is a very feminine, calming color, which is often associated with femininity. And because it's a jar, it's representing our womb. So great goddess figure right there. And these jar come with a stopper. It easily comes off. And like it said on the paper, that you can either set this on your altar. It's pretty enough to do that, or you can bury it if you need to. Next thing I see here is some more bubble wrap, and this looks like our vials of herbs. Now one thing that I love about this is that almost always their herbs come packed in these little vials. So there's our chamomile, and then there's our boneset right there, and you guys can see what those look like. Very, very nice. One thing I will mention is that these stoppers sometimes get stuck or they break when I'm trying to open them, so I can't reuse them, which kind of stinks. But that's not always the case. But I love that they're still in the little vials, because if you are a aesthetic witch like myself, you like all this little stuff, it makes it all look more witchy in my opinion. Then we have this beautiful pouch, and I'm assuming that the hematite's in here because I can feel it. We'll get that out in a minute, but I want to talk a moment about this particular pouch. It says Tamed Wild on the back, or Tamed Wild Apothecary, which is where it came from. And if you look here, it has the goddess figure, it has the moon, and it has some moths on here as well. I think this is absolutely stunning. It shows both the goddess feminine figure, and it has some masculine imagery here too with the horns. It looks like this was put on here by them with heat pressed vinyl. The only reason I know that is because I've worked with heat pressed vinyl before. I showed you guys my hedge writing sachet in my last hedge writing post, and I honestly think that this bag would be so much better for that particular use than what I was using before, which is more of a bag for protection, which I think is great because you have to keep those items safe and protected, and you want to make sure that you keep them safe from people touching them. But this, I feel like, represents hedge writing a little bit better because it has that lunar aspect, and the moths to represent that flight or that ride. So I'm thinking I'm going to incorporate this gorgeous piece of artwork into my hag bag, as Harmoniously likes to call it, or my hedge writing sachet, as I like to call it, because I'm not a hag. All right, so I think I might be using this, and inside is obviously our hematite. Holy crap! Now that is a big chunk of hematite. I did not expect that. Sometimes when I get these crystals in the boxes, they're real small, which is what I normally expect. This is a huge chunk, and you can see here with my thumb as reference that this is the same size of it, and it's very, very heavy. Hematite is really special. It's used for grounding and protection. I like to use black tourmaline for grounding as well, and I think that this will be great to add to my hedge writing sachet for that grounding afterwards, and for that additional protection along with my black tourmaline. Like I said, this is a hefty chunk, so I'm really excited that I have this and I get to use it because I do not have hematite in my collection at the moment. So this is a great addition. I'm going to put that back into our bag and keep it nice and safe so it doesn't get damaged. And then last but not least, we have a little box. Now I'm going to assume that this is probably our locket. And let's see. Yes, it is. So there's our locket inside, and you can see that it was stored, thankfully, with some green material. It looks like we have red and yellow rose petals. Oh yeah, they're definitely roses. They smell like roses. I think this is great. The packaging's recyclable cardboard, and then the petals in there can be used in any ritual, or you can just dispose of them in your yard, and these will go right back to nature. So that's great eco-friendly packaging right there. And if you guys can see, I don't know how well you can see it, we have some flowers on here, very, very feminine with some vines. And this is very, very lightweight. It has a spot where you can put a chain on it, but it doesn't currently have a chain. I don't know if it was supposed to come with it, but this is, again, very light, so it's probably made out of aluminum type material. Let's open it up here, and here's where you can put your picture or your item that represents the goddess, and use it as a talisman, or wear it, or make it part of your ritual. You can probably also, it will fit inside of this jar, so if you wanted to add it during that ritual to your jar, you could probably do that too. So let's review what items were in the box. We first have our sage cleansing stick. We have our ritual sand and herbs to go inside of our jar, and then our beautiful blue jar here. And we have our herbs. We have our bag with the hematite inside, which I'm not going to pull out again. And then we have our beautiful little locket. So that's all that came in this bag, or this particular box. Now I have the $20 subscription, so I think I got $20 worth of stuff here easily, along with the the booklet and the parchment that came with it, and the instruction sheets and stuff. Like, this is well worth $20 to have a ritual already laid out with me, or laid out for me. So I definitely think it was worth the money. I hope that this has been informative, and that you guys will check out Tamed Wild's House of Rituals box. If you're looking to subscribe, you can find the link below. If you're looking for my full review of this particular box, or this particular subscription box, you can also find that down below. Or if you just want to learn more about what my practice is as a hedge witch, and what a hag bag or a hedge writing sachet is, or even what hedge writing is, feel free to check out my blog, flyingthehedge.com. Again, I'm Willow. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, afternoon, night, whatever it is, and I'll see you guys later.